Hello, my name is Szilard and we are back with a brand new episode of Road to Iceland. Come with me and let's see what I've got lined up for you today. Last week we did two rides. I did two rides, Tom did one with me. The first ride was a 75 kilometer long London based ride. So the idea was that I'm gonna cross 14 bridges. I wanted to cross all the bridges from Kew to Greenwich, but for some reason, I don't know how, I missed Southwark Bridge. So I ended up doing 14 of the bridges. There is 35 bridges in London. But some of them are footbridges and railway bridges, so those were excluded. So from the 15 I actually did 14 of the bridges. And the second ride was to Sevenoaks the following day, which was the 25th of December, which was an awesome ride because there was almost nobody on the road. I was riding on the 24th in London. That means traffic, pedestrians, cars, traffic lights, plus I decided to stop on every single bridge and take a picture or two. And because of that, I was getting in and out of the saddle quite a bit, and the underwear and the bibs ended up playing a death match with my skin in the middle, which caused quite a bit of irritation while I was riding. Wearing gloves, being on the street, riding, etc, etc. I couldn't really fix this problem until I get home. The following day, when we were riding down to Sevenoaks, about 1 hour, 1.5 into the ride, I hit a massive pothole and that buckled my back wheel. So the buckle itself wasn't too bad because the wheel didn't touch the frame, but it was shaking the bike. So I almost felt like I was riding for 4 hours with a vibrator up in my ass. Anyways, the next step is to get that back wheel sorted out. Again, I'm not gonna try it myself because it's gonna look like a freaking boomerang. I'm gonna make it worse, definitely, that's 100% sure. Okay, we are back to the crapometer and the counter is at 1221 kilometers. I did almost 200 kilometers last week, I think a little bit shy of 200 kilometers. And I figured out what's gonna be the next problem, and that is gonna be the wheels. Some of the roads are really nice in the UK, but some of them are messed up. And then, these are, I think, quite low quality double wall aluminum wheels on my bike, and I think that's gonna be the next project, to swap those one, something a little bit sturdier. We're not riding gravels or whatever, but as I mentioned, some of the roads are really nice, but some of them are a little bit crappy, and then there is only that many potholes you can miss. You're gonna hit one or two sooner or later, and yeah, this wheel wasn't designed for that kind of stuff, so that will be the next project. And now it's time for the battle of the countries, UK versus Hungary, and the topic is today bridges. Bridges because I was doing the trip on the 24th and I was crossing London bridges. So I thought it might be a good idea to compare the bridges in London, crossing the Thames, with the bridges in Hungary, crossing the Danube in Budapest. First of all, let's have a look at the number of the bridges in each city. London has 35 bridges, and that includes railway bridges as well as footbridges such as the Millennium Bridge. In Budapest I counted 15 bridges, and that includes road bridges and railway bridges, but no footbridges. And next, let's compare some bridges based on different categories. The next category is the oldest bridges. So the oldest bridge in London is the Richmond Bridge, which was built between 1774 and 1777. It was designed by James Payne and Kenton Cose, and it's a grade 1 listed structure, which means that it's technically untouchable. It's part of the English heritage. and it's a beautiful looking little bridge. Richmond is beautiful itself, so deserves a beautiful bridge. So the oldest bridge in Budapest is the Széchenyi Lánc Bridge, which is a chain bridge. It was built between 1840 and 1849, and it was, funny enough, designed by an English folk called William Tierney Clark. And if I'm not mistaken, the operation was overseen by a Scottish guy with the same name, Clark, but they were not related. The bridge was strengthened in 1914, but then it got exploded in 1945 when the Germans were leaving Budapest, and then the rebuild took 4 years and it got completed in 1949. So the older bridge is Richmond Bridge, so the winner in this round is again London. Moving on to the next category, we got the youngest bridge. So in London, the youngest bridge actually is London Bridge, because the newest version of the bridge was built in 1973. It had a couple of previous older versions, one in the medieval times, which was built in 1209, and it was demolished in 1831, and then they built a new London Bridge, which was standing from 1831 to 1967, and then that got replaced by the newest London Bridge, which was built in 1973. The youngest bridge in Budapest is the Megyeri Bridge, which was built between 2006 and 2008. It's a cable-stayed bridge, very modern, very high-tech bridge. This is the northernmost bridge linking Buda and Pest, and it's part of the M0 motorway. So in the category of youngest bridge, the winner is Budapest. Next category is the longest bridge. So the longest bridge in London is Waterloo Bridge, which was fully completed in 1945. The total length of the bridge is 370 meters. It's 67 meters tall, and the longest span is 61 meters. So that's the biggest difference between two of its pillars, is 61 meters. The longest bridge in Budapest is the Megyeri Bridge. So we have a second appearance from the bridge on this comparison list. The total length of the bridge is 1882 meters. The cable stayed part of the bridge is 590 meters, which is still extremely long, and then the height of the bridge is 100 meters, and the longest span, which is between the two towers, is 300 meters. So the winner again is Budapest. I think the score at this point is 2 for London, 2 for Budapest. The next category is the most iconic bridge in the city, and in London that got to be Tower Bridge. Tower Bridge is not only known by Londoners, I think it's a world famous bridge. It was built between 1886 and 1894. The length of the bridge is 244 meters, the height of it is 65 meters. The central span, which is the longest span, is 61 meters, and I believe Tower Bridge is the largest opening bridge. On the other hand side, we got Széchenyi Lánc Bridge in Budapest, which is again a second appearance. This bridge is a suspension bridge, 375 meters long, and it is famous about the lion statues at the end, which is a legend that these lions had no tongues, but actually the lions have tongues, but they are not visible in the statues. Both of these bridges have very solid history, and both of them are a solid part of the city skyline, so that makes the decision a little bit difficult. But if we just look at how many people actually know about these bridges, Tower Bridge must be the clear winner here, because anywhere you go, I'm pretty sure people know what is Tower Bridge, where on the other hand side, Széchenyi Lánc Bridge, you most likely only know about it if you have been in Hungary before. Nonetheless, both of these bridges are iconic structure that makes their cities instantly recognizable. And with that, we arrive to the end of the Battle of the Bridges, and the winner is London with the score 3-2. If you want to learn more about this amazing structure, I'm gonna leave a couple of links below so you can check it out and maybe expand your knowledge a little bit about bridges in London and in Budapest. So let's have a look at the first Strava, and that's crossing London bridges. So that ride was on the 24th of December, and so the ride itself, it was 75.11 kilometers, took 3 hours 49 minutes, elevation was 396 meters, estimated average power was 90 watts, which is again quite low. Average speed was 19.6 kilometers, and calories burned 1387, max speed was 41.8 kilometers. So it was a slow ride because I decided to stop on every single bridge. So I stopped, took a picture, and then just moved on. I managed to cross 14 of the bridges. There's 35 of them in London, so but that includes the railway bridges as well as the foot bridges, so there was no chance that I'm gonna be riding on a railway bridge. I don't want to get arrested or whatever. And then the foot bridges, it didn't make sense to push the bike through just for the purpose of crossing a bridge. There was one bridge I missed, and that was the Southwark Bridge. I don't know why I missed it. But anyways, that was gonna be number 15. Alright, update number 1, so it's about 8 o'clock, 5 past 8 o'clock, a solid 1 degrees. It's gonna be cold again, but hey, we decided to make it, so we're gonna make it. That sounded pretty cheesy. Anyway, so we're gonna go to Sevenoaks and back. And on the way there, we're gonna see if we can get not into, but at least around Hever Castle. I think this is how you pronounce it. It's a nice little castle with a very pretty garden, and then so I'm just hoping that I can do a video shoot. Now the tricky thing today is that nothing is open, only petrol stations, so we're gonna get cold at some point, and it's just gonna be difficult to warm up. So at the moment I think our best shot is grab some coffee on a petrol station, or maybe 2, and then we'll see. Anyways, Tom is coming in a second, so we're gonna take off. Ciao! Alright, now let's have a look at the second ride, which we did on the 25th of December. And boy, it was amazing. In London there was zero traffic. I think we've seen only a few cars, almost zero pedestrians, so you could just take the whole road and it was yours, and it was perfect. Barely any people on bicycles. It was an absolute ghost town, and I loved it because you didn't have to look over your shoulder all the time is which white one is gonna iron you in the next minute, and no lorries, no nothing, so it was perfect. Now we left quite early in the morning, I think around 8 o'clock, 8:15 or something like that. And then so we rode down to Sevenoaks and then back on the route. We had this place Hever Castle calculated into the route. Obviously it was the 25th, and with the pandemic and everything, the place itself was closed, but nearby, actually next door to the castle, there was a nice little church, so I did a little bit of a video shooting there, and then we rode down to Sevenoaks, and then from Sevenoaks back to Highgate. So we got to Hever Castle, and place is dead. Nobody, barely anybody, and it's quiet and it's closed for the public. And then so, are you okay? I don't want to be a dick, but you can't blame this one on the bag.
I know.
What happened?
As always.
You couldn't clip out.
Yeah, no, it's alright. I was somehow thinking about something else.
Oh man, you have to be present.
This is.
The cleats are punishing.
There's no time to be tired.
Yeah. Anyway, so the place is really quiet. There was a nice little church next to a castle, so did a couple of shots there. Try to make a little video later. It's a quite tough ride because there's quite a bit of a hill climb. I think the total elevation is for the 120 kilometer is 1,200 meters or something like that. But I'm gonna have a better look at that. And so we had a couple of really tough climbs, and they are quite punishing on the legs. And the thing is, because it's a loop, so I know that I'm gonna have to do it again, and that is a little bit, how to say, it's concerning, because some of them was quite long and quite hard climb, so knowing that I have to do it again, exactly the same, yeah, that's a little bit worrying, but hey, we're more than halfway done. Get home, get some more food, and then just chill. I'm gonna have to take the bicycle to the repair shop because my back wheel looks like, I don't know, like somebody hammered it into like a boomerang shape. I think it took a couple of hits. I can feel when I'm rolling, it's throwing the whole bike. If you look, can you look at the wheel?
Yeah, I'm keeping an eye.
It's like like this. Yeah, I mean, you don't feel it when you go fast, but when you just slowly cruising, you definitely feel it. Now the route itself was 122 kilometers and a few meters. The moving time was 6 hours and 24, but the elapsed time was 8 hours and 14 minutes. So we stopped a few times. One was when we arrived to Hever castle, and then we had about 45 minutes break there, and then we had another break I don't know, I think just after we left Sevenoaks, and there was a petrol station, we had a coffee, we stayed there for about 15-20 minutes, and then we carried on. The elevation was 1,445 meters, so we had a couple of big climbs there. I think two of them was, because we had to do the route back and forth, we went through pretty much the same hills, slightly different location, but the elevation was pretty much the same. And then so on the way there was a big climb, and on the way back there was a big climb as well. When we did the climb on the way back, that was really tough. I think we were just a little bit too exhausted, especially I was riding for the second day, but it had to be done because I wanted to, you know, test myself a little bit. How does it feel riding 200 kilometers in 2 days? And to be frank, other than a little bit of a soreness, I had absolutely no issues or whatsoever. The ride itself wasn't easy. I felt it. I think I had a out of body experience at one point close to the peak of that hill. After the big climb, we had a few more little climbs, but nothing too serious, though the fatigue was kicking in, so even the smaller climbs, they felt a little bit more challenging than they would normally. But luckily I had nuts in my pocket and 2 frozen apples, technically frozen because I think it was 1 degree max the whole day, so it wasn't warm at all, and so the apples got really cold. But then while I was riding, I was munching on the nuts, I had the apples, drinking water, and then so I came back to like a normal level with the normal energy level with a bit of a fatigue in my legs, maybe half an hour later. So the rest of the ride wasn't that bad, because as going up on the hill, I was thinking about we still have a good 2.5 hours to ride and I'm nearly done, so it was gonna be tricky. And so I was like, okay, let me see, have the food, drink water, and then let's see how that goes. And luckily I bounced back. I think Tom had a little bit more struggle. He mentioned that we split in London because he was going straight home, I was going back home as well. And then he said the other day that that last bit getting home, it was a similar experience for him what I experienced in Margate, where I completely blacked out. Like I was riding completely blank, like I had no idea what I'm doing, just moving the legs, and that's it. That's all I was thinking about. So yes, to date I would say that this was probably the hardest ride we did. Different reasons for me and for Tom. I would say for me, 2 days riding back to back and doing the 200k in 2 days, that was the challenging part for me. And for Tom, it was probably because he had a bit of a knee pain, and then doing the climbs, I think the knee pain was getting stronger and stronger towards the end. And then obviously when you feel pain and you're riding, that's gonna affect your mood, it's gonna affect your performance. So I think because of that, he was saying that was probably the hardest ride he did so far. Now that we arrived to the end of this episode, there is just one thing I want to show you, and probably most of you heard about this or seen something like this. This is a balaclava, yeah?
Get one.
If you're cycling outdoors in 1, 2, 3, 4 degrees, get one, because this stuff is amazing. Covers your neck, covers your chin, you can put it all the way up to your mouth. My head is covered, I don't have to worry about my ponytail with the freaking helmet, because that usually gives me a headache. How can I tuck the ponytail under the helmet, and it drives me nuts. But this one sorts out everything. Hairs down, hat on, let's go. Alright guys, so it's time to wrap up this episode. I hope you enjoyed it. Unfortunately, because of the tier 4 situation, I'm gonna be limited with my cycling, so I'm gonna stay more locally. All I can say regarding the next episode is that we're gonna put a map on the map. Thanks very much for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you like our content, please feel free to subscribe, or if you think that the stuff what we do here is interesting or motivational, you can inspire a couple of people with it, please feel free to share with your friends and your family. And then as usual, all of our social media will be included in the description below. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Strava and Komoot as well. Thanks very much for now, and then see you next time.